James, and I'm here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting April the 10th, 2017. This week, I'm going to be working with playing cards, and the deck that's going to be assisting me for this week's reading is the Origins playing cards. They are by Rick Davidson. So I have the deck on hand. I have it right here on the table in front of me. So I'm going to be going ahead and shuffling the cards, jumping right into the reading this week. And as I do for each of my weekly readings here in this space, I'm setting the intention and asking the general question, what do we need to know for the week ahead? So I'm feeling that was good. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the cards and fan the cards out. And so now I'm going to be starting off by picking 3 cards from the fan. These are going to make up the cards for the week. Putting the rest of the deck aside. So now I have the 3 cards in front of me. So starting with the first card on the far left, the first card is going to be opening things up. So the card is, okay, so we have the Jack of Diamonds. And so if you're no stranger to my videos when I'm reading tarot cards or playing cards, in this particular case, we have here what's known as a face card. So a face card can represent specific people or a particular person, but when I'm doing these general readings, I tend to look at them as aspects of ourselves and approaches that the card is asking us to consider taking as we move through the week. So starting off with playing cards, I tend to look at the suit emblem. So we have a diamond card here. Diamonds is the suit for me that represents money and financial matters. So there could be something of a financial nature that needs to be looked at or addressed this week. Could also be about things having to do with our own sense of power. So that could be external power, meaning like the powers that be, other people, institutions, things of that nature, but also our own sense of personal power. And then the other thing with diamonds here, for me, it's all about what could we do to make our week more successful, because I tend to read diamonds as success. So, and also too, going with the idea like diamonds as a suit can also represent physical, anything in the physical or material world, and that could be material possessions, but also our physical body. Then I read diamonds as having to do with our energy levels. So we could be looking at this in a number of ways. If we go with the idea here that this card can represent finances and matters related to money, the Jack of Diamonds for me represents like money changing hands. So we may need to be looking at our financial transactions this week. And with that in mind, the Jack for me is about about our responsibility. So, looking at our level of responsibility when it comes to how we handle money this week, in terms of our financial transactions. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. Also, too, diamonds for me, this particular face card, the Jack of Diamonds, is all about not just being responsible with money, but allowing us to have a sense of stability and security. So that goes hand in hand. So it could also be too, like some of those financial transactions are going to allow us a greater sense of, stability and security. So I'm seeing that as well. Now, if we go ahead with the idea that this card is also asking us to be taking a look at our physical well-being, this card for me is Virgo. Virgo is a sign that can represent health. So we are, maybe having to stay on top of our physical well-being or having to monitor something. I'm seeing an image in my head that makes me feel like something needs to be monitored. It could also be too, it's like, what can we do to maybe kind of rest and relax? Because this for me is like the slowest moving Jack in terms of energy and speed. So it could be maybe we needed to take a step back and maybe conserve some of our energy this week. So I'm seeing that. So I'm looking at the card one more time. If you are of a spiritual mindset, then this card for me can represent like, receiving messages, because Jacks are all about messages. So receiving messages or being in communication with either your guardian angel or a spirit guide. So if that floats your boat, then you're being asked to be mindful of the messages that you're receiving from spirit this week. And in light of that, another aspect for me, for the Jack of Diamonds, is actually being a reader, and in particular a card reader. So it could be, since I'm touching on that, I'm seeing that in my mind now, could be someone watching this video is wanting to embark on a path of either being a card reader, generally speaking, or an angel card reader in particular. So I'm seeing that. So now I'm going to take a step back and see what else I need to say about this card. So in wrapping up, I'm thinking that the Jack is asking us to, as we approach things this week, how can we be more mindful of our level of duty and responsibility towards either our financial transactions, our financial well-being, or our physical well-being this week. So that's the Jack of Diamonds. Moving to the next card, because the next card is going to inform us more about this first card. And this is interesting. So we have the King of Clubs. Okay, so now we have two face cards here. So this is very interesting. So we had the Jack of Diamonds, and diamonds as a suit, like I said, can represent material possessions. Here we have the suit of clubs. Clubs can represent work or business. So those financial transactions may be of a business nature, right? It could also be too that clubs represents, if it's not actual work or business, then it's business or work that we need to attend to in the business of life. There's always work that needs to be done regardless of your station or whatever your profession is. There's always work that needs to be done or business that needs to be attended to. So that's what I'm seeing with the suit of clubs. Now, the other aspects of clubs could be something having to do with making some progression. If we go with diamonds being success, then that would make sense with clubs being progression, because they kind of go hand in hand. You get to see success, or you get to feel more successful when you see yourself making progress. So there's that aspect of it. And then the other thing with clubs can represent social activity. So it could be like maybe going with those financial transactions. It could be maybe keeping an eye on maybe a financial transaction with some people that we're social with, like friends or family or something of that nature. So be mindful of that, because that could be part of the energy of money changing hands. Now, the King of Clubs in particular, if we go with the work or business aspect, for me, this can represent somebody who is an entrepreneur. So it could be, that would make sense. So it could be, if we go with the idea that the Jack of Diamonds is about studying something, because sometimes this is the student card, then it could be somebody who is embarking on taking some classes or courses that's going to either help them with their business, or they're actually studying entrepreneurship. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. And with the study, if it's not about entrepreneurship and they're just studying for work or business, it's going to help them achieve some level of mastery, because kings are all about power, control, and mastery. So it could be like somebody is taking these classes, or needing to get some sort of maybe degree or certification in something, because it's going to allow them to make more money. And that would make sense with the financial transactions component of the Jack of Diamond. It would allow them to raise their earning potential. So I'm seeing that. The other thing I want to say about the King of Clubs, he can sometimes represent somebody who is devoted or passionate, and so sometimes this is about like the person who's a husband or father and devoted to family. So it could be, something about a person who is devoted and passionate to family and wanting to create something that's going to allow his or her family a greater sense of security and stability. So now the interesting thing here is that we have two face cards and they're facing each other. So sometimes in playing card cartomancy, this can represent two individual people who are looking at something the same way. They're in agreement, right? So there's two ways to look at this. They could be in agreement, or they could be going head to head about something. So it could be like we are needing to monitor, and this is where the social aspect comes in. Maybe we need to kind of stay on top of or monitor our everyday interactions with people, and be mindful of whether we're going to choose, because everything's a matter of choice, whether we're going to choose to be in agreement with people, or bring an energy of cooperation, being more cooperative than in opposition. So I'm going to leave that there with that for now. And now we're going to move to the final card for the week. So we have the 8 of clubs. So now we have clubs being the ruling suit, because 2 out of 3 cards are from the same suit. So I tend to look at that as ruling majority. So we already talked about clubs being work, business, enterprise, things having to do with progress, or something having to do with something being very social. So again, now going with the middle card being the entrepreneur card, this could be about the idea of social entrepreneurship. Somebody wants to do something that's going to better serve the world in some way. And that would make sense, because the King of Clubs can also be somebody who's into politics, because I'm seeing an imagery of a politician standing in front of a podium giving a speech. So it could be social entrepreneurship, but it has kind of a political slant, or it's being motivated. The person is being passionate, or being like on fire because of something that's going on of a political nature. And that's serving, that's like the fuel that's serving this need to want to serve the world in a bigger way. You know, it could be about just making people more socially aware of what's going on in a particular area of life. So I'm seeing that. So the 8 of clubs in particular, again, we have the 8. The 8 is a number of entrepreneurship. It also brings us back to the very first card, because 8 as a number can represent 2 things: power and money. So again, it's about maybe working out, or actively working out, issues having to do with money. So we're working on a money issue, or we're attending to the business of handling our finances better than we have been. And if you're doing that, if you're looking at it like you want to be better at handling or managing your money, then first I want to offer to you is you can acknowledge that in the past maybe that's been an area where you needed to make some improvement, but do it in a way that doesn't disempower you. The middle card being a king, remember I talked about, and especially with the 8 too, talked about personal power. So the first thing we can do is accept responsibility for the situation, at least as much as we can in our part of it. If it doesn't involve other people, then we can take full responsibility for it. But if it involves other people, then we have to be mindful of only taking on our level of responsibility, because everybody has some level of responsibility in the situation if there's more than one person involved, right? So you take full responsibility for your contribution, for your part in it. And as you do that, don't beat yourself up for how you used to operate. You could just say, that's how I used to do it, and starting today, I'm going to be handling things much differently. And here's the other thing. If you're working on changing things and you're trying to create a new habit, and I know this because of my psychology background, what you want to do is you want to create small goals, or you want to have small wins, because it's easier to see the progress you're making with small wins than to have a big, huge goal that seems insurmountable. And because all you're going to be doing is seeing how much farther you have to get to your goal. But if you make small goals and you make small wins, you see the progress incrementally. And that will kind of spur you on as you get closer to your goal. So if you're working on changing anything, regardless of whether it's your finances, whether it's your physical well-being, whatever it is in the material sense that you want to change, then set yourself up for success, going back to the diamonds, and not for perceived failure, right? So I want to offer that. So the other thing here with the 8 of clubs that I want to offer is that sometimes I tend to look at this card as movement. So it could be, again, movement in the metaphorical sense where we're seeing progress being made, but it can also be literal movement. Could be saying too, as we move through the week, we may find ourselves, because I'm seeing the word business, but I'm seeing it change to busyness. So sometimes this card can represent a flurry of activity. You know, so it's about you being on the go, you know, having a lot of irons in the fire. This could also be true if you're working on your own thing, your own project, your own business. You may be having a lot of irons in the fire, and it could be as things take off. If you're launching things, then some things may be contingent on other things going before that. So it may be like, what would help you is to take some time and energy to create a plan and see what needs to happen before the next thing. So like for instance, if project A needs to be put into motion and that will better serve project B at some point down the line, then now's the time to start putting your energy into project A, because project B can't happen until project A is out into the world, so to speak. I hope that makes sense. But it represents like looking at contingencies and what needs to happen along a timetable, because I'm seeing the word timetable in my head, so that's the best way I could put that. It could also be too, if somebody's doing something with social entrepreneurism, then this card can be about like going global, and I'm seeing this in terms of like the internet. This is an internet card for me, so I'm seeing that as a way of reaching a wider audience. So it could be something that somebody needs to consider with the internet, or that part of your business needs to be like getting your website up, emailing people, things of that nature. So I'm seeing that kind of energy attached to this. Now, if you are of the mindset and you're one of those people that I talked about who may be connecting with your angels or your spirit guides this week, this is a wonderful card to have on the other end of your reading, because this card can represent like psychic messages coming in. So pay attention to the messages that you receive. Here's the thing about this, because there's an aspect of this card that I sometimes see in relationships with other people, and I mentioned the social aspect of this card. So I want to say first, in the physical world, this card can come up when we are wanting people to know that we love, care for, and appreciate them, or that we are hoping to hear that in return. And going with the middle card where I said a person may be devoted to family, could be like we're looking to hear those words or see that demonstration from our family or people who feel like family. The other thing here could be in relation to connecting with your guides and your angels. One of the messages that you may find yourself receiving is just knowing that your angels and your guides love you and they care for you and they're watching over you. So taking a step back to see what else do I need to say about the line. So summing up, with the diamond suit here, it's making me feel like the energy is going to be taking a look at our material world this week, and so that could be through our money, and that could be through our physical well-being, because I'm seeing those as two things stepping forward. The clubs could be like working out things, again, regarding our finances. Is there something that we need to take more responsibility for? Is there a better way that we can manage our money this week? And then what will we be willing to do in terms of actions so we can start moving towards being more successful in that area? Also too, if it's not about just money, what about your physical well-being? What's this one small action step that you can take so you can have a win with your physical well-being this week? So I'm seeing that. Be mindful of our connections with people this week. We want to approach things with a sense of cooperation and not so much opposition if we can help it. And even with that, we have to be mindful of we can only control ourselves in those instances, in those experiences with other people, because we have to allow other people to be fully responsible for how they show up and how they express themselves, just as we have to be mindful of that, right? And then the other thing here, moving towards the end of the week, is that if we work on creating some organization, that's the word that's coming in, organization, that will better help us move towards being more successful. So on that note, I will wrap up and end this week's Oracle Outlook. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and as I close, I'd like to first thank you for sharing the space here with me for this week's reading, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you again in our next reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week. Take care.